Grudge Match is back, ladies and gents, bringing you more pulse-pounding punishment, where we pit our favorite Marvel and DC characters against each other to see who will win the day. Today's match compares two of the best down-and-dirty, mass-killing super soldiers across any universe. From Marvel, the best there is at what he does, it's the mutant Wolverine, and from DC, the Terminator, the mercenary to end all mercenaries, it's Deathstroke. While these characters certainly have their differences, they are both the result of military experiments in an attempt to create the perfect soldier, who end up going their own way and become anti-heroes who manage to do the right thing by killing a whole lot of people. So taking a look at them individually and starting with Wolverine, first created in 1974, originally appearing in an Incredible Hulk comic, though going on to become a standard of the X-Men series and easily their most famous and prominent member. The character Wolverine, real name is James Logan Howlett, was first born in Canada in the late 1880s, but because of his mutant power giving him regenerative capabilities, keeping him perpetually young, he's lived a quite lengthy lifespan. That lifespan has sent him all around the world, having decades and decades worth of adventures as a solo character as well as on multiple teams. He found himself unwillingly thrust into the Weapons X program, which is the organization that gave him his famed adamantium skeleton. The Weapon X program also brainwashed him to be their perfect soldier. Prior to that, he actually did have the claws that he is most famous for. They were just made out of bone, and after the Weapon X program grafted the unbreakable metal adamantium onto his entire skeleton, his bone claws were then coated in adamantium, making them even more of a powerful weapon that he uses in combat. His other most prominent power, besides the claws themselves, are his regenerative healing factor, which is an immensely potent healing factor that allows him to regenerate all manner of lost tissue, and coupled with his adamantium skeleton giving him a high degree of invulnerability to critical damage, i.e. it's virtually impossible to damage his brain or to sever limbs, it makes him almost immortal because it becomes almost impossible to do any permanent damage to him that could result in his death. But his mutant powers don't end at simply the claws and the regenerative healing factor. Wolverine also has enhanced animalistic senses that allows him to be an excellent tracker. It allows him to hear, smell, see, all at an enhanced rate, in addition to having other superhuman physical attributes. He actually has a degree of superhuman strength and agility, some of which is aided actually by his adamantium skeleton. Because his bones are coated with an unbreakable metal, he can push himself to lift objects that would cause damage and injury to a normal person. And also, the mere fact that he's constantly carrying around the extra weight of the adamantium means that he's constantly pushing his muscles to their max, so he actually has a degree of superhuman strength. He also, throughout his years, has developed enhanced fighting skills during all of his times with various fighting teams and as part of military units, and a prominent amount of time spent in Japan, where he learned more martial arts techniques. So over 100 years of combat training has made Wolverine a very, very potent, skilled fighter. This isn't always well known about him, as he very often during fights goes into a animalistic berserker rage, but when he is calm and collected, he actually is an immensely skilled combatant and fighter. All of these powers and skills, coupled with a very gruff yet loving attitude and personality, and a reluctant acceptance that sometimes certain people just need to die, and him being the one who has taken it upon himself to do it, has made him an immensely popular character for Marvel Comics and the most popular X-Men character to date. Deathstroke the Terminator, first created in 1980, real name of Slade Wilson. He joined the Army in the 1960s and was immediately recognized as a combat prodigy. He could virtually instantly pick up almost any kind of fighting skills, and he excelled at all manner of armed and unarmed combat. He was immediately proficient with hand-to-hand fighting techniques, as well as edged weapons and any kind of explosives and firearms. He was just all around the most skilled soldier his commanders had ever seen. And he was drafted into a military experiment meant to enhance his already considerable skills even further. He was given a serum that gave him superhuman physical attributes, enhanced strength, speed, agility, hand-eye coordination, enhanced senses, just increased all of his physical skills to superhuman levels, as well as gave him a healing factor that allows him to heal from critical injuries much faster than normal. In addition to that, it also enhanced his brain function, allowing him to access parts of his brain and think at a much higher rate than a normal person ever could. This, more than anything else, allows him to outthink his opponents and even makes him able to take on vastly more physically powerful opponents by way of planning out a way to defeat them, use their strength and abilities against them, and it has allowed him to single-handedly take on entire teams of superheroes like the Teen Titans or even the Justice League and come out on top more often than not. He left the employ of the military and became a mercenary for hire, and that is where he exists today. Despite the fact that he is most often billed as a villain, Deathstroke has very often actually aided superheroes and the good guys in a variety of ways, mostly because he ends up not liking the real villains just as much as he doesn't like the heroes. Deathstroke is always on his own side, not necessarily on the good guy's side or the bad guy's side, and that has made him a very prominent anti-hero in the DC universe as well. He is incredibly mercenary, utilizing all manner of edged weaponry, explosives, firearms, and combat techniques, as well as his not insubstantial superhuman skills to complete any task so long as the money is right. So having taken a look at both of these characters, it's time to decide what would happen if they were to ever cross paths and go into one-on-one competition with one another. The winner would be Wolverine. Wolverine has the more considerable physical attributes on his side. His healing factor is much more advanced than Deathstroke's, allowing for very fast regeneration of damage, whereas Deathstroke's is more of a healing factor than a regeneration factor. So his ability to heal from injuries is going to be much slower than Wolverine's. Now, a fight between these two characters would obviously result in multiple injuries on both sides, but Wolverine will be able to heal and come back from those injuries much, much quicker than Deathstroke would be able to. Now, Deathstroke is going to have the better weaponry between the two of them, as he would come into any fight with a wide variety of firearms, whereas Wolverine most often just relies on his claws and his powers to do his fighting. So Deathstroke would be able to stay at more of a distance than Wolverine would, with Wolverine having to get in very close. However, all of the bullets he could possibly fire at Wolverine will not take Wolverine down. Wolverine has been shot hundreds and hundreds of times. It doesn't really even slow him down. So he would just be coming at Deathstroke full force the whole time. It would only be a matter of time before it would devolve into close quarters combat. And once it does, Wolverine would score some major critical hits that would make things very difficult for Deathstroke. Now, the one thing Deathstroke does have over Wolverine is the enhanced brain function, but without having foreknowledge of Wolverine and his fighting skills and his method of operation in combat, that would be a difficult thing to bring to bear against Wolverine. And since these two characters don't exist in the same universe, and since they don't know one another, Deathstroke would need a period of adjustment to sort of figure out what Wolverine is like and what he'd be likely to do, and in that amount of time, with that learning curve trying to figure out Wolverine, that's all the time Wolverine would need to get in close and get some critical hits onto Deathstroke. So in this matchup, Wolverine and Marvel are going to take the win. Thanks for watching. Let me know below what you think of the outcome of this fight, and as always, suggestions for future Grudge Match episodes. We'll see you next time on the next edition of Grudge Match.